And I had to once again repeat things I've said a number of times in the past. I don't really enjoy this topic. We have up on sermon audio that thing I did on grieving, don't we? Yeah. People are surprised. I've done a lot of reading in the area. I was a hospital chaplain, my second biggest selling book is the book on grief. They had boxes of it at Ground Zero on September 13th, 2001, distributing it to the first responders there, the people that were digging through the rubble of the World Trade Center. And the Lord's really used that book. It's really helped a lot of people. I can't tell you how many people have had write to me, saved my life. I was ready for suicide and found out that there wasn't any reason for suicide. Reading your book. So the Lord's really, really used it. But this particular subject really demonstrates that theology matters. It also demonstrates that we as a people, especially in Western culture today, we do not deal with death. We do not think about death. We put it off. And the scriptures themselves say, teach us to number our days, Moses says. It is better to spend a day in the house of mourning than a day in the house of feasting. Man, that ain't our culture. We spend billions every year to amuse ourselves so we don't have to think about mortality. We don't have to think about all the things that constantly God places. As we get older, God keeps designing things into our bodies that reminds us you're getting older. The day of reckoning is coming. And we just do our best to completely ignore all of that. The folks at Tony's church haven't been able to avoid that. They've been facing this for a long time, and that's going to change them, and it's going to deepen their dependence upon the Spirit of God. And I think as long as God is glorified, then a true believer, though it won't be easy, and though there will be days when they won't experience this, the true believer will find God's comfort to be more than sufficient in that situation. But again, whatever you do, don't go up to folks in this situation. I know what you're going through. No, you don't. No, you don't. Every situation's unique. Every situation's unique. So we pray for Tony, and we're thankful for his testimony. He's under tremendous pressure right now, and his heart is broken. Tremendously difficult situation, but we pray for them, and we love them, and I exhort you to pray for them as well. I do want to announce, I did on Facebook, that tomorrow, 1 o'clock our time. 1 o'clock our time? Yeah, 1 o'clock our time. Not sure how this is going to work out. Happened a little bit quickly. Here's what happened. I went down to Tucson over the weekend, do some altitude climbing on Mount Lemmon, and on the way down I was listening to various things I wanted to try to catch up on. And I listened to a dialogue between some representatives of the Hebrew Israelite movement. I am no expert in the Hebrew Israelite movement. I've just been listening, as many others have, to Vocab Alone, who's been doing some research in that area. He was on Apologia. Because he was on Apologia, they asked him to dialogue with them, and so I was listening to the dialogue he had with, from what I gather to be one of the less radical Hebrew Israelite movements. I guess there are some Hebrew Israelites that just can't get through two sentences without dropping F-bombs and everything else, and I have no interest in giving people like that even a forum to express their views and their behavior. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And but this group doesn't do that. And so I was very interested to listen to the dialogue. And I came across a number of things, but this isn't a video, this is just audio, so you should just have straight up audio. Here was one of the statements that was made by the representative from the Hebrew Israelite movement. And I realize that on 1.6 here. That's going to sound really funny. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Well, I'm glad you're on here with me, because you've probably seen some of our teachings. And let me deal with this going backwards, first starting with the deity. We understand that the deity of Christ was never discussed in the Gospels. A matter of fact, the word deity only came up in the 4th century during the time of Constantine with the Council of Nicaea argument of Christ's divinity. So when you deal with it from a theologian standpoint, and I'm sure you are a theologian study, you realize that the word deity in itself embodies idolatry of the Gentiles. There's nowhere in scriptures that say that we are to acknowledge Christ as a deity. What you're saying here, and I know it's Christianity. I was a part of it. I grew up. My grandfather was a Baptist minister.
Okay, so you had the claim that deity, the description of the deity of Christ, it all comes from the Council of Nicaea. Now, the Gospel of John would find that unusual. Mark chapter 14 would find that unusual, that there's no reference to the deity of Christ. We'll look at these things. And what I wanted to do, and of course, the early church, looking at Ignatius, a few things like that. But what I wanted to do, and I contacted Vocab, and he got me in touch. And evidently, because I made a comment on Facebook, now all these people are contacting the ministry going, "Oh, come on, I'll come on." It's like, whoa, just hold on a second. I just would like to talk with this gentleman about what he said right there. That's just, I don't know. I listened to this whole thing, and I was like, wow, these are some, really ahistorical, never heard of before beliefs and perspectives, and interesting, but really wild. And but that's my wheelhouse. I've stood in mosques around the world and defended the deity of Christ against claims like that. And so I just wanted to have a dialogue with this gentleman, say, all right, you said this, then how do you understand these texts? How do you understand these early church fathers? Where did these things come from? Just to get an idea of how these folks interact with scholarship, with scholarly, material from the original languages of the Bible and things like that. So tomorrow, it came up, he was like, let's do it right away. One of the